Mr. Jha.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mr. Anil.
And I have Manav and I have Sandeep with me here. They are customers of yours. How many free dish customers do you really have? What is the number? We are a little, unclear about the number.
Customer as such, uh, see, normally we have got 80 channels as on today, out of which roughly 55. 55 are given to the private broadcasters. And groups, say Sony, if it comes, Sony has got multiple channels on our platform. Similarly, Star and Z, they do have different channels on our platform. I think Mr. Manav is there, Mr. Sandeep is there. They are all our customers, valued customers, and they have been honored to have them on our platform. And we want more of such customers to add in future.
Yeah, that's on the B2B side. That's your tenants. But in the area of the user, the lay retail user and the viewer, what is the number on that front? Is it 30 million? Is it 20? How many STBs have been deployed?
See, our DD free dish distribution model is somewhat different from the usual distribution that is being followed in other platforms, say Tata Sky or Dish TV or the cable network. We have allowed the private distribution model where individual STB distribution network players distribute their own STBs. Because we are free to air, so we don't have any control on the STBs being distributed and sold. We don't have a feedback system or customer registration system. So exactly telling you how many customers we have of DD free dish will be a tough question to answer. But yes, from people like you and the market feedback that we are getting, a conservative figure that we are getting is it is not less than 2 crores, and it may go beyond even 4 crores. So you can see the so roughly the bandwidth that we are playing with. So it is not less than 2 to 2.5, and it may go beyond even 4.5.
Yeah. Sandeep has a question. He was asking, you were trying to do an audit. Has there been any success on that front, and what results have come out of the audit?
Audit on what?
On the customer base.
On the customer base, yeah. We have been hearing that you have been trying to conduct some discussing to do some audit on the customer base to understand what can be the customer base. So are we doing something on that sort, or is just in discussion as of now?
Internally, we haven't done any audit as such. Yes, but we have been interacting with the players like STBs and the chipset manufacturers, who are basically the people who are selling these set-top boxes. Based on those figures that we are able to visualize that it is not less than 2.5 active. Active means active subscribers. And the other option that we are also looking at it, that the figure that has been given by TRAI, that these are the active subscriber of the existing players, and these are the registered, original registers of the that platform. So there is a variation of roughly 30 to 40 million customers, and we expect and we know that more than half of these non-active customers which are being told or reported to TRAI by these platforms belong to us, because they don't have the capacity to pay.
Can you hear the panelists clearly, or because I'm going to be asking them questions next?
Anil,
So-
generally I've observed that for some channels that we've tracked, which were before and after on Free Dish, they've gone up by about 9 to 10 million viewers reach active.
I'll come.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, yeah.
Anil ji, it will be better if you repeat the question what the panelist
No,
is
he said,
asking.
no, actually we'll get to that. I'm beginning, he just made a comment that he saw his reach going up by 9 to 10 million views after he got onto Free Dish.
Other channels.
Other channels, not theirs, but he's seen other channels. The reach goes up by 9 to 10 million viewers. So we'll draw a corollary on that. But first, I wanted to ask each of these two panelists a question. Why did you all choose to go on Free Dish? Why did you choose as B4U, and why did you choose as, and the kind of channels you have on Free Dish?
We as,
Yeah.
I think,
Mali's I've got Mali coming on board. Mali coming. So the discussion so far, can we update him, has been that he doesn't have a real fix on the numbers, but he says guesstimate side, it could be anywhere between 20 to 40 million Free Dish customers on the retail side. On the wholesale side, on the B2B side, he's got about 80 tenants. 55 of these are the private guys. So we've got to this discussion so far. Okay. So now we are going on with asking Sandeep and Manav, why are they on Free Dish? Why did they choose to go on Free Dish? Can you hear them clearly, or would you like me to? Okay.
Yeah.
so as a broadcaster, our intention was to be present in each and every DTH, MSOs, LCOs, right? And Free Dish, as we all believe, has a very good penetration in rural. And since our focus was to be penetrated everywhere, that's where we chose Free Dish. It's just after the advent of BARC into the rural market, we understood that rurals have got this much of weightage because of that change. Otherwise, Free Dish was one of the means of getting into being ourselves made available.
Did you get that, or it wasn't clear?
Not clearly. I'm not
So
able
do
to hear him.
we come here and chat? Is it better? Or are you okay with that?
No problem. No problem.
Come. You want to give your view? Give your view here. Let's have it. A little bit of technology's limitations, but
Yeah, that happens pretty often. Tech does back you down.
so why did you choose to go on Free Dish?
I think it's at two levels, right? One is, like you said, you want to build maximum reach for your channels. So we currently have about 5 channels. The point to note is we're not only on Free Dish, right? We're also on cable, or on DTH, all of the platforms. So yes, it is to optimize reach, and this happened well before there was BARC rural data. So it wasn't triggered only by the advent of the data that now suggests that you should need to be there, simple as that. The other fact is very obvious, I think. It's a business fact. There's a cost for entry, which some of us perceive to be fairly high. We understand how many channels in the recent past have got launched and shut down. The two primary cost verticals become content and distribution. So as broadcasters, it's very important that before taking a business call, if you want to play it safe, want to play it right, your cost heads are well planned and your ROI is justified. From that perspective, sometimes channels like ours, which up to until now are syndicated content channels, right? You're unable to present a very, very compelling proposition for it to turn payer, right? So it's safe to go free and then then do a good product. Our channels do extremely well. Like our music channel is on a given day between 40 and 50% more than a number 2 channel, a 20 channel category. We get some 23, 24 GRPs on a weekly basis. The next channel gets 13, 14 GRPs. But still, it's not enough to go pay. It's compelling in our proposition, but we can't go pay, right?
20.
Sorry?
2021.
22 last week. We are rivals, by the way, so, right? So that's one perspective. It's a business logic as simple as that. Point to note is we're a rapidly expanding network. We're launching about 4 more channels over the course of next 3 to 6 months. And one of them is a comedy Hindi channel, original content comedy Hindi channel. We are the ones who launched and hived off Sub TV, and we're taking comedy on again, which we believe will be a compelling channel. And the question starts then, will we go pay our FTA? In the business model, to be very honest, FTS still seems very viable because there's a very high cost to entry to build optimum reach, you know, simple answer.
Now,
I just want to, yeah.
it's better if you chat, let him hear it also.
I just want to add that I think before you grew, before you movies and before you music were the primary channels which were in the DD free dish. Even before they moved from, I think, 45 channel to 60 channel and then going forward. And going by what my MSOs used to come back to me, they used to tell me that before you, not being a, though we were a pay channel, but we used to give the content free to DTH. So they used to tell me that B4U movies at that point of time was the Star Plus of DD Direct, right? So that's what we were at that point of time.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
being a part of this, Malik, can you
Yeah,
come on?
please.
Being a part of this, has this helped you monetize it better, and have you paid attention to the audience that they have? Have you been able to get your clients to, get onto the platform? So first let him answer, then you can answer.
Obviously, being a part of DD Free Dish, see there, as I saw growth in two ways, right? Just not DD Direct reach that we got. Since DD Dish were free, the boxes were free, lot of LCOs and lot of small operators use their box to transmit the channel. So in the rural areas where we could not reach directly giving our own setup box, those setup box were used to distribute our own channel, right? So that gave mileage twice, right? So that was the biggest advantage, and yes, numbers were always coming.
So you've been able to cash in?
Yeah, we were able to cash in, but the major cash in came only with BARC changing the strategy.
Yeah. So Malik, how does your advertising community view this audience that he's built up, which is probably rural areas who probably don't have a lot of disposable incomes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the first thing is, obviously, I think BARC has given us a new set of lenses. I mean, it is, again, not to say that it didn't exist. Even if you go back to the old TAM days, if you looked at the LC1 ratings and so on, it was there. But the point is, people didn't really look hard enough because, predominantly because it was urban focused, people didn't, you really didn't get down into analyzing. But I think with the new BARC data, obviously, rural has come into sharp, focus. And when you start looking at certain brands, which have more than 40-45% of their business is coming from rural, it just changes the whole advertising game in many ways. For instance, and part of it will obviously there will be a certain level of cannibalization, but let's say that there is a brand which is selling 60 to 70% of its volumes from rural. Earlier, it used to advertise for 8 to 10 weeks on air because it would do what other brands would normally do, go on the general entertainment platforms, burn the money in 8 to 10 weeks. But then suddenly you have a new smart way of planning saying that I can take the same money and go and extend and have maybe 24, 28 weeks on air. So that actually gives me a lot more salience in around 50 to 55% of my markets. So I think the advertising dollars definitely are, people are looking at it. Secondly, purely from a currency dynamics point of view, I think, see, everybody is going to be looking at CPRPs and cost efficiencies and so on. I mean, that currency remains. But I think with the rural data, it's a new currency. So people don't have a benchmark to really go back and understand it on. So, you are almost looking at it sheerly from an advertising dollar point of view. You're looking at it with a new set of lenses. You don't have a history to go back to. So I think that also kind of benefits the channels. Obviously, people are putting in the money. They have to see returns. And if the returns come, it will start, obviously more and more money will start flowing into the rural spend. So I think a lot of money is coming maybe not just from, there is a certain amount of money which is flowing back from television itself, so it's from the mainstream channels and so on, but there is also a certain amount of money which people were putting on, let's say, local cable, which today is still not measured, so obviously a lot of money is coming in from there. There is wall paintings and other rural activation and so on and so forth, because the television gives scale. Television is still, it really still works in this country, and I think if there is a viable way to measure it, people are willing to put their money, and that's what's happening.
Yeah, so my question to you again is, what kind of categories really are we looking at? Are we looking at tractors? Are we looking at fertilizer? Or are we looking at FMCGs?
Yeah. I think you have to start with FMCG, right? The point is that television, 55% of TV spend is from FMCG. Out of that 55%, I would say more than half of it still addresses both rural as well as urban markets. So you're probably talking about almost a 30% of the advertising pie, 30 out of 55, having a rural relevance. The next I would also look at is telco, obviously, because penetration is high. So all the telecom service providers as well as handsets, it's going to be playing a role. I think tractors and things like that will be there. Obviously, they are important for rural India, but they're not really big advertising sectors. I think it's going to make monetary sense in Indian television if FMCG comes in. And I think that's where the
coming?
game is.
Are they coming in
Yes,
now?
yeah, it is coming in.
But in terms of the pricing, compared to being on cable free-to-air, compared to being on DTH free-to-air, are you getting the same levels of pricing that you could? Manav will answer you that. Yeah, we're talking about the pricing that you're generating from, or you can't separate the two.
No, very simply, we're not getting our returns. The fact is that at HSM level, we had a reach of about, category per se, had about a 130 million reach, and now it's down to about 420 odd million reach. But that doesn't worry us personally, because let's face it, we took about 2 decades to measure rural, right? And then to say that I want the ROI now in 2 months' time is not going to happen. And like you rightly said it, that it's a new currency. We don't know how to set up benchmarks right now, and we completely understand that. Having said that, we shouldn't be too patient either, because we've got a business to run, right? So yeah, I think it'll evolve. The question to ask is that will advertisers look at us as rural and urban separate, or can some channels straddle both? That's the question to ask, and that's where the FTA model and pay model will actually take shape.
I think, yeah, that's a pretty important perspective from an advertiser, or lens, because, today if you look at the FTA channels from an FTA lens, it makes sense. If you ask me, when I wear my media planner, lens and look at it. But when the moment you look at it as an urban plus rural, the point is that, again, when you go back to your previous benchmarks, I mean, you cannot do away the past. So there is going to be, I think, still people are transitioning from the old system to the new system. It's still happening. So till that settlement happens, till everybody has converted whatever currency they were operating at in the old system and have got what is it that they are looking at in the new system, and that's still settling in the market. I think this level of confusion is going to exist. But I think the moment benchmarks are set on what is the right level to look at for rural India, I think the money will start flowing, a little bit more aggressively is what I sense. And I think a lot of it will also come from not necessarily the big spenders, because the big spenders will always have monies to do both. I mean, I think let's leave those people aside. But I think there are a lot of people who will be then forced to make choices, which is the first example which I said, which is that should I do 8 weeks of both urban plus rural, or am I going to be better off doing 40 weeks of rural, covering my sales in a lot more weeks? And I'm talking FMCG because obviously paste and oil and shampoo people are going to use right through the year without too much of seasonality.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you a question, Mali. Have you done experiments with certain brands, to certain clients, and figured out whether your retailers in the rural areas are actually coming back with demand from consumers based on the advertisements they've seen on Freedish? Have you done any experiments?
Yeah, we have. Yeah, so we have done. I mean, I think the evidence is still, the plane is yet to land. Is my honest submission on it. I mean, I think, and one is obviously in it for the long haul. I think it's a little too early to say that. Look, all of this is a tearing success at this point of time. To be honest, if you go to the retailers and ask today, also they will say Star Plus mein advertise kijiye or Colors mein kijiye. I mean, no one's really going to tell.
Even in rural India?
Yeah, even that it comes. This is all, but this is anecdotal. See, my point is basically, I just want to also take a bit of the anecdotal and look at, there's a large body of data which is now coming. I mean, right from, from BARC. I mean, and we have more than 6,000 meters, which is right now in rural India. So we have to triangulate that with what the distributor, the dealer, and the salesperson says. And they will always go for the spectacular, because they will want you to be in the biggest properties and the biggest things and so on and so forth. But I think, so we have put the money in for our clients. I think we still need to get a larger body of evidence is what my submission would be.
Just want to understand. Is it, are the clients asking you a separate set of customer base for rural and urban, as Manav was saying that, do we really have that kind of separate demand, or it's just that the demand was already there and we're just trying to segment it right now?
I think it's more, the demand is already there, you're just trying to segment. I think, what has happened in the TV environment today, I mean, if I look at it, there are 3 segments, very simplistically put. At the top end of the spectrum, you have the HD segment, which is whatever, 9 million homes, 10 million homes, whatever is the number that we talk about. Then you have the fat middle, which is all the regular, pay channels, the Star Pluses, Colors, Z, and everything else of the world. And then you have which is the rural spectrum. Now, I think what I feel hopeful for rural, the reason I say that is because, see, HD today, we still don't have enough samples to measure HD with a lot more nuanced, sense. I mean, because, people are putting money more on gut than actually on numbers. I mean, the decimal, it's the second decimal in terms of ratings. Whereas on rural, we have substantial ratings. And I think that gives it a pretty good, what should I say, base. And the advertiser money, to answer your question, therefore, is surely on segmentation. So if I'm targeting top end, I will put a certain X% of money on HD and put Y% of that onto the mainstream channels. But on the other hand, if I have, segments spanning across both rural and urban, let's say I take a brand like, let's say, Dabur Vatika, for instance, which would sell almost 80% of its sales would be coming from rural. 70% of its sales would be coming from rural, 90% of its sale comes from sachets. So then for me, I may not have the money to go and take on all, Clear or HNS or whatever else, because this is a 80,000 GRP category. So I'm never going to have enough ammunition to go and fight them week on week, but I will make the choice of saying I will target the rural consumer right through the year. So yes, it's segmentation. It's very clearly the segmentation which is.
Mr. Ashok Jha, you've been listening, Mr. Jha, you've been listening to the conversation. Some feedback from you, then we'll get on to your expansion strategy. And your feedback on what has been said so far. Has it been encouraging for you?
Yeah, it's very encouraging that they are looking forward for an equal. They are putting main thrust on the free-to-air segment. But only thing I want to add that our DD Friedrich people are thinking that it is more primarily on the rural side. Yes, we also know that it is primarily on the rural side, but yes, we do have an urban segment where it is also being seen. That people are basically not taking into consideration that we also do cater to the urban population.
Yeah.
Because once you see the BARC rating, you find that Z and Mole and the Sony Pearl and other which are free to air are high on the list.
So you're very
Yes,
right.
they are on the top in the rural list, but they do figure in the top 10 even in the urban plus rural list.
Absolutely, there's no debate. I think Friedrich gets us very, very good reach in urban markets as well. That's a 1 lakh plus market, 0.1 plus market. Having said that, analyze the data hard enough, one sees that in the NCCS segment, they are at the bottom. They're not at the top at all. And that's logically derivable as well. And generally speaking, we get greater ad dollars. Being FTA especially, we have no pay revenue. We get more ad dollars for NCCS A and B. The gap lies over there. Whereas rural for us is an entirely different segment.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah, rural for us is an entirely different segment, and you might quantify that far better. We understand that it's far too difficult, it's far more difficult to communicate a brand's proposition to the rural audience. To the extent that HUL, we all know, has gone on to build an indigenous platform, an audio-based platform, to penetrate a measurable platform, an audio-based on mobile, right? Kaan Khujara Tashan with Hangama, that's right, So it's that difficult and that important that they have gone on to build an indigenous platform. Nowhere else have they felt the need to do that, right? So definitely, FTA is extremely important, but the priority is more towards rural market and not the urban market, from our perspective.
Yeah, true. Because the rural market was till now untapped, and that is the thrust area now for the advertisers.
Yeah. So, in terms of, there's also a factor of advertising and creating communication which touches the rural audience. That, you can't get an ad which is running in urban areas to run in rural audiences. There's no connect. So is the advertiser also going in that direction? Your content also. Can you have the same content which is catering to urban audiences, touching down to rural audiences? These are thoughts which we all have to mull over if we are taking the route, because they're going to be expanding. That's why.
I think they with the rural advent, at least in the music genre, what we have seen that we had to change the content strategy, because the taste of the urban and the taste of rural is quite different. Even the songs that we have to select basis the reach that, because the basis the people we need to reach and the viewers, we had to change the content strategy. So as you're saying, it's rightly that with the more they want to grow, if they're growing, I want to understand that are there plans of making genre-based category in the DTH as well, because that impacts a lot as well. Because
Can I just answer that?
yeah.
So I strongly disagree with the comment you made right now, right? I want to share a
Glad
small...
you disagree.
Right, and purely on factual, on the back of factual data. So allow me to share a small experience with you. So our channel was leading through TAM, household, BARC, and then BARC individual, non-rural data. And then when rural came on, before you gave us a very, very strong fight, our channel is Masti, gave us a very, very strong fight, and there were a couple of weeks that they did move ahead. And yes, obviously we began questioning ourselves that do we have to now start playing one singular market? That fine, let them be kings of rural and we'll be kings of urban. And then we did not want to give up, and we had the same question in our mind, that can we create a product which can be equally palatable for both rural and urban audience? Well, actually we did. So if I can just share some data with you, last week Masti is at 22.73 and B4U is at 15 at HSM level, 22 and 15.4. 22.7, so 23 and 15.5. Whereas at an urban level, we are 19 and B4U is 13 something. At a rural level, we are 22 and B4U is 17. So a gap is fairly staggering in all markets, right? Yeah, sorry, I'm talking about the channel because we look at them as very strong competition now. But having done that, let me also make one more point. Channels like Star Utsav and repeat of lead GCs, they're actually putting content that was made for urban on FTA channels.
But aren't they programming it differently? Not the same as it did on the pay channels?
But shows are exactly those. They're not making original content as yet for FTA GCs.
I agree to him to a lot of, but what I actually meant was, if you see similarly that Sony Mix, yeah, 9XM, they are skewed towards urban content, right? Why isn't that variation not coming with the entire rural and urban mixed, right? So the competition between B4U Masti is quite different because the content strategy is more or less same. They pioneered themselves at their levels and their market quite ahead of us, right? But my discussion was how the content differs with other channels. If just as Pankaj, my friend, was just saying, right? He was trying to pointing out, right? It's not about just these two channels, right? It's about the content which is being accepted by rural.
All right. Now, coming back now, Mr. Jha, now it's over to you to, pricing has gone from 1.5 crore to 5.5 crore. I mean, that is something which is, and I believe it's going to go up further. We are expanding, from MPEG to MPEG 4. You're taking more transponder capacity, and you want to go up to 250 channels. Can you give us a little, overview of how do you see this panning out, and do we see rates going up, and then you'll see will you see a fall away from broadcasters who feel that we can't recover the price that we are paying? Yeah, it's over to you, Mr. Jha.
Thank you, Mr. Atul. Yeah. First of all, as regards the rates that you are telling, yes, we do have increased our cost, but it is not that we have increased from 1.5 to 4.6. This is the base rate we start the auction with. So 1.5 was something like 2 to 2.5 years ago.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So it was 3.5 last year, and we have marginally increased to 4.3. Still 4.3 this year. And
But the last one was at
next auction, which
5.5,
is,
right? The last one, last two tenants. 4.5, was it? Okay, I stand corrected.
The highest bid was 6.5.
telling you about the base.
Bid went up. Base. So I have one specific
4.3.
question. Sorry. In between, you had separate pricing for regional channels, which was a one-off, and then that was discontinued. Your thoughts on
It is-
that? What's the plan forward?
Yeah. Yes. We want to create a platform where the channels of all the areas of India. We do not have that much channels which are catering to the regional channels like Telugu, Tamil, or the Eastern India, except the Bhojpuri channels and other things. We don't have much which is catering to the South Indian channels or the Western channels. So based on those inputs, we had given a thought that we'll be reserving certain slots for the regional channels. But our experience for the regional slot was not forthcoming that we slot, and we could sell only 2 channels out of 4. Remaining 2 were given to the general slots, and as on today we have got only 2 channels which will be given for the auction in the regional slots. So when these 2 Marathi channel had come, so I think they'll be completing their annual subscription only next year early. So we'll be releasing these 2 for the auction, and it will be open for the regional reservation. But it will be given for auction, but for the regional category. So all the regional channels will be free to come for auction.
But will you open up more frequency at subsidized pricing for regional? Well, not subsidized, justified pricing for regional?
See, as on today, the approved pricing, base price is 2 crore for the regional channels.
That's right. But
Right.
will you open up
So
more
the-
such frequencies?
Yeah, you have a plan, you have an expansion plan, right? You're going towards MPEG. You had a shut-off yesterday
Yes,
morning.
but
Yeah.
no, that shut-off was basically for a routine maintenance RF job. The upgradation is already going on. Upgradation process is already going on. We'll be releasing another 24 channels in MPEG 4, which will be basically an CAS-enabled channels. All that you are telling genre-based and the EPG and everything will be there with these 24. But in a phased manner, all these 80 channels, which is in MPEG 2, will be converted to MPEG 4 in a phased manner, not in a year or so, but in a say we'll be also moving to 250 channels, for which the process has already started. So by 2018, you can expect that we'll be going for 250 channels.
So, sir, if you are going to move from MPEG 2 to MPEG 4, and where you do not have a direct access and control with the...
having CAS now.
No, that's only in MPEG 4,
Yeah.
right? So the existing subscriber base of whatever numbers we may estimate is not MPEG 4 enabled, right? So how do you ensure though that conversion of those boxes or whatever MPEG 4 you will buy, because DD boxes one bought, you will have no control on them, right? Only the new boxes will have that CAS enabled thing. How will you, what is the process of conversion that they're looking forward for the new setup?
See, what we have planned, that existing MPEG 2 set-top box which are already in the market or in the household, that won't be changed. Because we don't have the database who all are having these set-top boxes. So we cannot go to them and say that yes, you converted. But yes, people themselves will come and change.
Sir, in that case, as broadcasters who are going to participate, right? How would they estimate what kind of reach or what kind of viewership would they be able to get? Because even in the current status, even in the present status, we don't have estimated numbers, right? We go by the auction just for the estimation, because we know we have to reach DTH, DD Free Dish being an important DTH. We need to participate. Broadcasters like us, we were there from very older days. We don't want to move out. We don't want to lose our viewers. So at whatever numbers we need to close, we need to participate in the auction, even with the fact that that gives us the ROI or that doesn't give, right? So once you're moving, how do we ensure that the ROIs are being met?
So that is what I'm telling you. These 80 channels which are in MPEG 2 will continue till we are assured that yes, people have moved on to the MPEG 4. So these 80 channels will continue with the MPEG 2. The
So
people.
the additional capacity will be in MPEG 4, you're saying?
I'm further explaining him that whatever people are having MPEG 2 set-top boxes will continue to get this 80 channels. Only thing is that these people won't be getting the additional 24 channels, which will be in with MPEG 4 set-top boxes.
So the
80
channels will also be on MPEG 4 and on MPEG 2, plus 24 more channels. Is that right?
No. Anyone having an MPEG 2 set-top boxes will continue to get 80 channels.
Right.
Anyone migrating to MPEG 4 set-top boxes will get 80 MPEG 2 channels plus 24 MPEG 4 channels. So anyone going to MPEG 4 set-top boxes will be getting 104 channels.
So what kind of reach would you be having when you have those, let's say your mic, 24 will come in what time frame? The additional 24 channels, is it in the next 3 months?
The groundwork has been completed, the infrastructure is ready. Now the rolling out of the set-top boxes, because we are going to empanel the set-top box manufacturer. Who will we have started the empanelment. You are able to hear?
Yeah, we can hear you.
So empanelment process has already started, and say in another 4 months or so, the set-top boxes will start rolling out in the market, hopefully.
Yeah, is that music to your ears, Mali? That you're having so many more outlets to, and you know, the auction will have to happen if the tenants come in. Is that music to yours for your advertisers?
No. Okay, honestly, I think for us, the rubber has to hit the road. I mean, I think it's too early for me to react to say whether that is music to the ears, because I think you know what the current set of 70, 80 channels are delivering, and I think monies will come on the basis of that. Now the new channels have to deliver the ratings. I mean, I think, you know, if it's going to be on new households, which is what I've understood, you know, him telling me, then I think it's going to take a little bit of time for it to reflect, because it depends on what is the monthly, you know, set-top boxes being sold, you know, newly, and how much of upgradations will happen. So to me, I think the opportunity still lies in how you can maximize on what is already there, at least for the immediate short term. And I think this money will probably reflect a little bit. It's a little bit more long range, I would say.
Yeah, so Mr. Jha, you'll have to have courageous broadcasters who'll actually look at investing in your slots, because the advertising community is going to not really be, you know, dancing to your tune in the sense of the expanded capacity. So he says, no, I'm not really looking at the audience. I know. Net effect, he's saying,
No, obviously.
show me the proof. So you'll have to have really, yeah, so there's a challenge for you. You'll have to.
We'll be in a position to, yeah, you know, we have got the model on what basis we are going into the market. We have got clear cut policies, and the business model on how we are going. And see, the next year, hopefully we'll be in a position to tell you how many subscribers in MPEG-4 we are having. We won't be in a position to tell you, yeah, we are having in 2 crore to 4 crores set-top boxes. We'll be pinpointing you, telling that these many crores set-top boxes are already in the market and are active.
Great. I mean, interesting. Any other comments you want to put to him? Any comments from the audience? Anyone wants to come in? Please come forward. Rahul, you want to come here and address it? Yeah, can you come here? Please come up on stage and address it. So this is Mr. Rahul Nehra. He's from Friends MTS, which is a content security company. So probably he'll share something with you.
There are just 2 or 3 points which I come from a village in Western UP, and as a part of a foundation which we run, we travel a lot. What I see today, I don't see Doordarshan DTH. I used to see it 4 years back. I don't see it in the Western UP villages today. The village has changed, the youth has changed, the lady has changed. I can see Tata Sky, I can see cable in certain parts, I can see Z-Dish in certain parts. I can even see Sun in North India. So the 2 premises which I heard about the numbers, I don't really know, number one.
Rahul, I'll just correct you on that, because the dishes may be Sun and the set-top box could be DD free dish.
No, that's not the case. We invested in a property which is a rural theater, only to do new films. In the trials, we ran only houseful shows. The youth has changed. It's no longer, there's no difference in a rural youth and an urban youth. Don't give him Tata Sky, don't give him a good digital cable connection, he won't take it. So the definition of this rural, I think, is also changing. It may not have changed. It may be changing more in Western UP, more in Punjab, but it's definitely changed. and it's reflective in a political context. I don't know how much of you are familiar with UP, but the followers of, let's say, Charan Singh are limited to 50 and above. Anything below is social media oriented, pushed hard through social media, be it Rahul Gandhi, be it mobile phone penetration and use of mobile phone, they surprise me, the youth, the kind of messages they send, the kind of works they send, and the kind of awareness they have. So just going back to a point, a couple of premises, I found them to be slightly out of sync from what I see in Western UP. And I don't know what is the life of this kind of concept when you do 250 channels by 2018. Too little, too late, at taxpayers' money. And maybe your money.
Yeah, your point is that, you know, Mr. Jha, that's what even I think Mr. Sirkar mentioned, that maybe we've taken too long over this entire moving towards ICAS and moving towards, but I guess as a public broadcaster, you have a need to serve the rural Indians, and you're doing it through DD Free Dish. So his point is that, is it taxpayers' money being put behind a service which might be coming too late because Tata Sky and all the other mobile phones and have penetrated these markets already? But I don't know, the ratings are showing something else. You know, there's a dichotomy over here. So your response to this?
See, finally, the public service broadcasters' mandate is to provide a affordable alternative to the viewers. I think once we are starting to pay, we start to pay the Tata Sky and Dish TV, we also have to think twice before paying, because the subscription with the HD is going too high nowadays. I think it is coming around 6,000, 7,000 if you go for that. And I don't feel the rural population is so rich that they'll be able to pay 3,000, 4,000. So they need to have an alternative solution where they have, and Free TV is, Free Dish is giving them an alternative where they don't have to pay anything. They have to invest only 2,000 or 1,500 for a dish and a set of boxes. And they are getting a good bouquet. Why will they opt for another platform which asks them to pay 6,000, 7,000 per year? I feel
I understand. So it's going to offer another choice. But for you all, when you're at 250, you'll be, let's look at about, your Doordarshan will be getting home about 1,000 crores a year in terms of, absolutely. That's a good bounty to have to continue running public service broadcasting. Will you be making a profit on that so that you can, do public service broadcasting better?
Profit is not not always our motive behind expansion as such. Yes, revenue doesn't hurt us. If the revenue comes to us in a good number, it will certainly be invested in a different manner and a better content management.
Absolutely, that's the context I was talking about, because you're running short on funds, government's reducing your funds, and you'll have to start serving yourselves, you're looking at the commercial slot sale. So this is going to be good for you all overall, and in the end, you'll be giving content back to consumers. Wow.
Yeah.
So, for any other final questions? But I think we must thank Mr. Jha for coming on a conference call, because this is an important distribution medium as far as viewers in India are concerned, and as far as certain broadcasters are concerned. I just hope you'll keep the pricing in the future auctions will be at fair levels, as these broadcasters are saying, so that Manav is coming up with more channels. He could put them on your platform. I don't know whether he'll go pay with them, and so will other broadcasters, so that you could have tenants going forward, and we could get the glory days of Doordarshan back again with great content. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
sir.
I also look forward to Manav, Sandeep, and Mallikarjun to come with the new channels on our platform.
Yeah, no. Malli is saying he'll come with revenue, not with channels, because I mean, he's not diversifying so much. He'd rather diversify his clients than into a new business. So thank you very much, sir. You have a wonderful time in Delhi, and thank you for coming to the office today to be with us, and it was really, really valuable. Let's give him a round of applause, please. Thank you very much. And thank you to our panelists for being extremely, extremely open and forthright in this session, because the idea behind this session was to understand another distribution medium, which many of us don't really pay attention to, the free-to-air DD free dish. Thank you, sir, and thank you all of you all. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Andre.